My name is Amina, and today I'm going to be talking to you about triangle trigonometry, or triangle trig. So first of all, I just want to let you know what's going to be covered in this video. Quads. So these separate squares, these are the quads. We're going to talk about like how you refer to them and whether x and y values are positive or negative in them. Next, we're going to be talking about the names of the sides of a right triangle, or like the values that go there. So yeah, so we're going to talk about like how the x value is here, y value is here, and the r value is there. Pythagoras theorem, which is a way to find all the sides of a right triangle, and it's in this case, like in terms of this, it would be r squared equals y squared plus x squared, or like r squared equals x squared plus y squared. And then we're also going to talk about the different like trig functions and what they mean. So like cosine, sine, secant, cosecant, and etc. Yeah, cosecant. So yeah, and then we are also going to talk about what to do when a radical is on the bottom of your fraction, and we will be seeing this because these functions are going to be like two of the values over each other. So like for example, cosine is going to be x over r. If r happens to be a radical, then we're going to have to like change that because radicals aren't supposed to be on the bottom of a fraction. So I'll be teaching about that. So let's just put that to represent it. Okay, and last but not least, I'm going to tell you how to know which quad to put the right triangle in. This is important because, like I briefly mentioned earlier in this one, the different quads have like different values for the x's and y's. So if your x is negative and you're putting it in here, like, and you're making it negative in this quad, then that's not going to be correct because both values are supposed to be positive in this one. So yeah. Alright, so there's a quick overview of this video, and now let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about the quads. So, like I said earlier, these are quads. The first one, quadrant 1, this would be quadrant 2, this would be quadrant 3, and this would be quadrant 4. For quadrant 1, x and y values are always positive. For quadrant 3, they're always negative. For quadrant 2, the x value is going to be negative and the y value is going to be positive. And for quadrant 4, the x value is going to be positive and the y value is going to be negative. So now that we know our quadrants, we need to know what's going to be put in our quadrant, and that is our right triangle. And it has different sides, it has its own hypotenuse, and then depending on whatever angle's in there, it has its opposite and adjacent side. If the angle's over here, then this will be the opposite and this will be the adjacent because it's opposite the angle. For triangle trig, we're just going to call these two the legs. First of all, the hypotenuse is always going to be the r value. The legs are going to be, x is going to be over here and y is going to be over here. Sometimes the problem will just give you the value for r or the value for x, and you won't know what y is. So the way to find out what y is by using Pythagoras theorem. R squared is going to be equal to the value of x squared plus the value of y squared. So you just plug in whatever values you have and you just solve from there. It's like you're just solving for the variable. Alright, so here are the different trig functions, and secant and cosine are reciprocals, sine and cosecant are reciprocals, and tangent and cotangent are reciprocals. So cosecant is going to be x over r. Sine theta is going to be y over r. Tangent is y over x, so cotangent would be x over y. Square root 3 times square root 3, you would get 3. The way to remove a radical is by multiplying the radical by itself. You also have to multiply the radical by the numerator of your fraction. Numerator and denominator have to be the same number so that it can equal 1. Like, the fraction that you're going to be multiplying your initial fraction by to get rid of the radical has to like equal 1. Sometimes they'll ask you to put it in a certain quadrant, like they'll say the number of the quadrant, but other times they'll just tell you that a certain value is negative or that a certain value is positive, and then you just have to go to the quadrants that have that negative or positive value. All right, so here's our first problem: 8 and negative 15 at point A, right? So we always know that the x is over here and the y is over here, but we don't have the r. So this is where Pythagoras theorem comes in. R squared equals x squared plus y squared.
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun.
R is 17. Cosine would be x over r, 8 over 17. Secant would be 17 over 8 because it's just the opposite. Sine would be y over r, so negative 15 over 17, so it would be negative 17 over 15. Tangent would be y over x, so negative 15 over 8, and then negative 8 over 15. And now let's figure out where our triangle is going to be. So because there's a negative y value, that means that it's gonna have to be like either in here or in here, but the x is positive, so it can't be in here because quadrant 3 has negative x. So x is 8, this is negative 15, and r is 17. All right, so our next problem may look a little bit different, maybe slightly harder, but really it's kind of the same thing. You just have to remember that cosecant is r over y. So this is going to be our r value and this is going to be our y value. So what we're really looking for is our x. So x is going to equal 40. So now let's just plug in our values like into the trig function. So okay, so now let's just draw our right triangle. We have a negative y value again, so it is also going to be in quadrant 4 because the x value is positive, so it can't be quadrant 3. So yeah, and yeah, so now let's just label our sides. And yeah, so that's all for problem 2, and now let's move on to our last problem. All right, here's our last problem. It may appear to be like very similar to A, but once we find out the r value, you'll realize why this one's slightly more difficult. So first of all, this is going to be our x and y, and we're going to plug that into Pythagoras theorem. R equals square root of 97. So now let's just plug it into our trig functions. Negative 4 over square root of 97. Now I'm sure y'all see what's wrong with that. We're not supposed to have a radical on the bottom, so we're just going to go ahead and fix that with our magic wand. So it's going to be square root 97 over negative 4. Alright, and for this we don't have to do anything because the radical's on top, thank God. Now let's go over to sine. Y over r is going to be negative 9 over square root 97, but we cannot have that because the radical's on the bottom, so we're going to go ahead and fix that real quick. Next we have cosecant, which is going to be r over y. So we're going to have y is negative, so the whole fraction is going to be negative. It's going to be negative square root 97 over 9. Tangent's going to be y over x, and because they're both negative, it'll just become positive, so it'll be 9 over 4, and then same for cotangent, it'll be 4 over 9. Both values are negative, so it's obviously going to have to be in quadrant 3. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned a bit of triangle trig, and yeah, basically just remember like the quadrants, what's in each of the quadrants, Pythagoras theorem, which side of the triangle has each value, and what to do with radicals on the bottom, and then you should be fine for any problem ever. So yeah, Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something and have a wonderful day. Bye.